The short and sweet is this is probably the best $5.99 I've ever spent. But I have had some really good cheeseburgers in that price range, so... Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another of Max's tool reviews. In the last video I said I do these about once a month, but the truth is it's, whenever, every couple weeks, maybe a few times a month. We like to keep it fast and loose around here. But anyway, if you're just joining us now, this is your first one, there's a playlist for all of them right up there. You can go enjoy the show. What we're here today with is probably one of the first air tools I ever bought, and as such, this thing has had, I bet, 18 years of use on it. Not a professional, of course, but this thing is just, it's seen it all. You can just look at the thing and see that it's had its share of hot dinners. We've just worked the bejesus out of this thing, and in fact, if you listen, it just sounds like gravel. So I've just reefed and reefed and reefed on this thing nonstop. I've used it many times until the whole body of it was iced completely over, like outside in the wintertime especially. You wouldn't think you'd have a water problem with your air supply in the middle of the winter, but you do if you run a few thousand gallons of compressed air through it all in one shot. This thing has stripped all the paint and rust and stuff off of like multiple axles, countless gasket prep jobs, just all kinds of abuse and stuff I've given this thing over the years. In fact, at the end of my video on doing the exhaust manifold on the Jeep, or the gasket prep portion of that video, I walked out to the side of the shop and just showed you guys my hand just completely covered in water from the compressor, just throwing water through my tools. I'm 99% sure this guy is the guy I was using when that happened, and that's been the regular for this thing. So we've got my 18-year-old, to make it official, Harbor Freight Angle Die Grinder number 52846, and you can't buy this exact lot number anymore, but who cares? Harbor Freight does stuff like that all the time, where there's like 10 different lot numbers for stuff anyway. You can buy them today that look just like this one. I think regular price on them is $14.99. I am positive that when I bought this thing, it was like $5.99. This was when Harbor Freight first came to my town. It's when they first started blowing up all over the country. And they were just rock bottom prices. And it's like, well, it's an air tool. How much can go wrong with it? And for $6, who cares? My thought on stuff like this always was, well, I'll buy one now because, I wanted one that was broke. This is 20 years ago. 20 years of income differential is a lot for most people. And when I wear it out, I'll just go buy a better one. I never really needed to. The thing just keeps hanging in there. However, I believe this is the actual first air tool I ever bought, and certainly the first die grinder I've ever bought. This is a Chicago Pneumatic, the original CP. Like Harbor Freight has, been famous for years now for like ripping off more popular brands, like, Central Pneumatic, that comes from Chicago Pneumatic. From way back in the day, I've been led to believe these were very high quality tools. I'm mostly led to believe that by my dad. He's had a 1/2-inch CP and a 3/8 CP impact gun for like 40, 50 years now. The things just keep running. And he always said back in the day, CP was the stuff to get. So when I initially went out to get my first die grinder, probably about 2002 or so, was just looking around the store one day and noticed they carried CP, and I thought, I'll go buy one. And this thing is a CP872 die grinder. No clue if you can still buy this exact model or not. I doubt it really matters. So this is actually the first one that came home. And the first thing I discovered upon getting it home is that with a straight shaft on it, it's only good for, I would say, a handful of jobs. It's not nearly as comfortable to use as a 90-degree guy. The next thing I noticed too is between the two, the CP weighs about twice as much as the Harbor Freight, which, take that for whatever it's worth. So anyway, without knowing anything about air tools, this is the first die grinder I ever bought. You can see it's had quite a bit of work too, but not even close to as much work as this guy. And at the time, like I said, pretty sure this was $6. Pretty sure this guy was 50 or 60. And if you look these up today from quality brands, and when I say quality brands, I'll include CP in that. CP, Ingersoll Rand, and Aircat, they all have offerings that are still right around that price range, like 50, 60 bucks. And then you can go up to a couple $100 for one of these if you really want. I'm not intimately familiar enough with them all to know the quality difference, why you might pick one or the other, or what end of the price spectrum there is truly the best value. But what I can tell you as a guy at home is, it's nice having fancier tools or, better brand recognition or whatever. But this is the guy you want. This is absolutely the guy you want to go get. If you don't have a die grinder and you're just getting into air tools, go buy one of these. Regular price on these today in modern times is $14.99. And the only real complaint I see guys have with them, the 50 or 100 or whatever one-star reviews there are to like 1,000 of them, is the same complaint I actually have with mine that just started in the last couple years, is I'll be using it and this head will start to unscrew. I've never actually bothered to try and like jam this jam nut up against the head or anything to get it to quit happening. I just tighten it back down and keep working it. And it's hard to say why it took this thing like 15 years to manifest that problem. I also don't care. If this thing exploded in any way that did not injure me, I would go straight down to Harbor Freight tomorrow and buy another one for 15 bucks and not worry about it. Also, as a point of interest, for the first probably 5 or 6 years I had this thing, it ran on unregulated 180-pound air nonstop. These things are rated for 90 psi, most air tools are, and this thing has seen whatever the compressor will give it its whole life. So here in my shop, that's 125 psi, of course, until the pressure tanks out. At my dad's shop, his compressor makes about 180. This thing's never seen a regulator a day in its life, and it just whips ass. And every time I pick the thing up, it makes me laugh because it just sounds like a box of rocks. It sounds like it's going to die at any minute. A few years back, I switched out all my air fittings to Milton fittings. So nice made in US fittings that don't leak and should last the rest of my life, I hope. By doing so on this tool, I increased the value of it by about 20%. So that's just hysterical. The air fitting costs almost as much as the tool. On the list of things to get from Harbor Freight, this is definitely it. I'll plug this thing into some air and see if I can show you just kind of how noisy the thing is when it's running. It's a lot easier to hear it when it's not, or when you feather it at low RPM. We'll see what the camera can pick up. Also, while trying not to deafen you. Oh my God. You guys no doubt can hear those gears just... Let's give it the full rip. Yeah, on the way down is when you really hear it. I've made no effort to ever really oil this thing or take any care of it at all, and it's just been a tank. So this thing's highly recommended in the budget tool category, frankly, to anybody. If I were a professional working in a garage every day and my paychecks depended on my air tools, I'd probably still use this thing. As bad as it has sounded like that for as long as it has, it's probably not going to stop in a day. And if it ever blows up, go down and get you another one for 15 bucks. Anyway, guys, not too elaborate of a review here other than the fact that this thing is old enough to go serve in war and vote. And it just keeps running and running and running. This is a review I really wanted to do just because I have had this thing for so long. And it's just been an incredible buy. So, as always, I want to thank you for stopping in. And we'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.